This is the Totality experience. I'm Britt Wilde, and we're about to have some vast conversations with epic guests and their uncensored honesty. Let's go.
We start with motherhood and weave into everything
Wherever
else.
the fuck we go.
Well, because
no issues with the chats.
well, yeah, and motherhood feels like, for me at least, and I know for you, it's like the basis of our connection, and the basis of everything we're creating at the moment is through the stem and lens of showing up as a mother, and then everything else. It all comes from there. It's like a fountain.
Good. I like it. I love the analogy.
I saw a fountain in my mind. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to say it's like a fountain and do with it what you will.
And then everyone else is going to take that and just run that analogy through their own filter.
Motherhood is like a fountain. Yep. Done.
The end.
Okay. Great chat. See ya.
That's us today.
Thanks for having me.
Lols. So how is motherhood for you right now?
You know what? I am in a stage and I'm touching all of the wood. My desk is made of wood. That was not intentional, but we're going to touch it right now. It's really enjoyable for the very first time, full stop. Like, not in a long time, like for the very first time since becoming a mother 18 months ago. I had this day yesterday where at the end of the day I went, oh my gosh, this was a beautiful day, and there was nothing massive that happened. It was no big thing. My little girl still, had her moments of tantruming, and there was still tension points through the day, but I just felt a sense of like, I've got this around motherhood. I'm still touching the wood. I'm like literally
save me
for dear life. And it was really an interesting one to reflect on, because the night before, we share a bed with my little girl, and she was up from 11:30 until 2, just having chats. She was fine. She wasn't eating. She wasn't sick. She was just having chats. And I would have assumed in the past that would have been enough to derail my whole following day. And it was the opposite for me. Like yesterday was just such a deeply fulfilling day for no reason other than I feel in my groove with this for the very first time, and it's really nice. It's a really nice place to land for now, and I'm sure there'll be moments where that will shift and change. I mean, if motherhood's taught me anything, it's that every single day, every single moment is different. So don't hold your breath, Hollie, but at this stage in my life, I am very happy to be a mother.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that big change has happened? Do you think with other kind of aspects of life that tend to go into like a rest space or go into almost like a maintenance space, you gain this capacity to hold more, and so you have more of a buffer on either side of your resilience? Like, is that what it is?
100%. It's 100% a buffer, and I feel, for me at least, I've done a lot of work in the last 18 months of completely reprogramming how I identify myself. And when I was in my maidenhood, it was very much through how much money I was earning, the work I was doing, how much I was working, those sorts of things. And so when that came untangled and derailed, it really threw me. And I've landed back in this place where I am working for the necessity. I have to work. I don't have the luxury of not at all. But it's like this, I can't find a word for it, and you might be good with this, because I've been contemplating, it's not a juggle. It's not the juggle between work and mothering and everything else in life. It's not balance, because it's
what's balance?
Never going to happen. But what is it? I'm in a good rhythm with the tide ebbing and flowing. And at the moment there's it's just a really good rhythm that I've nailed right now in this moment in my life. And I think that's why. I didn't even have a nap yesterday and I felt energized.
This is momentous. Well, huge. I think that, that resilience, like, where does resilience come from? Resilience being this like adaptability and adjustability to like the present moment by moment reality that's presenting in front of you, which is literally changing every moment with children. for me, that comes from this place of vitality. It comes from life force. And I get things like vitality on life force based on how I'm looking after myself, based on how much my needs are being met personally. And that can be things like solitude, space, significance and fulfillment in my creative pursuits, my like actual physical health and well-being, how much I'm prioritizing my protein intake, which tends to be like the biggest thing that like swings the pendulum for me.
Like absolute game changer. I'm right there with you.
I'm like, what? Where did I miss the memo on how important food is? Like, I know that that's such a basic bitch thing to say, but it's the first thing that goes for me because I get hyper fixated on my present reality, like the life that's actually in front of me. And the first thing that goes is like food. For some bizarre reason, which it's like the most important thing. But what I was saying is that I find that when I'm nailing all of those baseline foundational needs for myself, my resilience and my adaptability is exponentially greater. And so then when there's like a late night, a rogue nap, huge tantrums, big feels, sick child, got to go to school, pick up early, whatever, I have this ability to just be like, okay, I actually have the brain capacity to logistically navigate these changes. Cool. I'm going to get in like my 1% and I'm going to be like, this is what's happening. Now we need to do this, change this. And I'm
That's
like,
exactly it.
I'm in like leadership is what it feels like.
Yes, it's so interesting you talk about life force because I've been doing this thing in my life personally where I've literally called it Operation Life Force.
Love.
And I've been working on that since I spent the entirety of March physically unwell. I had this weird purgy thing happen and then I had COVID and I was just down and out all of March. And my physical body is always, for me, the messenger. It's like there's something off kilter here. And I was trying to do way too many things. I had my energy back and I was in demand in work again. And so I was squeezing work in all of the nights that I wasn't mothering full-time through the day, and I was working on weekends as well. And it really forced me to take stock and go, Hollie, you have got no life force. There is absolutely nothing. I was exhausted. I was depressed. I was physically sick. And so Operation Life Force for me has looked like really focusing on the things that bring me vitality. And it's just in having this conversation with you that I can reflect and go, well, we're almost in June now and a few months of this, and I am back in that space of vitality and resilience, and it's a really nice place to be. It's nothing major has shifted. It's all of the incremental little things at how I show up in my day that have shifted and made massive impact. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was talking about this on my stories yesterday. It's like the big changes are actually those incremental 1%ers that most people look at and think that's not significant enough to truly create change in my life. Mm-hmm. And if it was that simple, everyone would do it, which is the most ironic and hilarious thing because that's the reason no one's doing it.
Because it's so simple.
Because it's so simple. It's just so ridiculous. And it's like that for me because what the thing I notice with Life Force is that when I have it, I am robust and I'm adaptable and I'm in my leadership and I'm decisive. Mm-hmm. When I don't have it, life is happening to me.
Yeah.
And something hard will happen and I'll go, oh, of course that happened.
It's
and I notice it's the victim thing. Victim mode comes on and you're like, it's easy for everyone else. It's harder for me. And you feel like you are a receiver of life and not in a great way. Like life is just happening to you versus you. I was like, you are making life your bitch. No, you are
dominate life.
Dominating life. You are like indecisiveness with your life. And things happen and you're like, this is an opportunity. It's like one of those parts of you is seeing life as opportunistic and one of them is seeing as, oh, I've just got to get through. Yes. Why is life so hard? Trudging along. I'm struggling. This whole year's been hard. It's such a different mindset. And the difference is Life Force. And the difference is how well you're actually planning your own personal care.
Yes.
And I don't mean like hashtag self-care, have a fucking bubble bath. I mean like genuine care for self.
Yeah. And even knowing what that is for you, because
Knowing
it's
what that
different for
is.
all of us. Like actually getting clear on what, because, and this is a thing that I realized in motherhood last year when I was in my first year of motherhood, I'd get a free couple of hours, a free block of time, and then I'd stand there and go, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. I have
I still
no
do this on
idea.
occasion, I'm not going to lie.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I do not know how to fill this space. So I'm just going to sit in the bitterness of, and the martyrdom and be like, fuck everyone. And throw some pillows around the room. No. So I actually think it starts at the very, and this is again, the simplicity of knowing what you want and knowing what gives you vitality and energy. Have we actually sat and thought about that? Because it's not going to be the same. Like what gives you go for runs. I'm not going to do that. I have G-cup boobs.
But why not? Have you tried? Because it's really good.
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
What gives you life force is going to look incredibly different to me. Like I sit cacao ceremonies. You would rather stick needles in your eye than do that. Like
it's true. I would.
So we've had these conversations. We need to get in. And you know what? Even just speaking this out with you, it's even deeper than that is, God, we're getting really like esoteric here, but like, who are you? Who are you? And who are you outside of the roles you play in your life? Who are you outside of, in this moment, I am mother, and in this moment, I am the podcast host, and in this moment, I am, partner to my husband or significant other. Who are you when all of that is taken away? And then once you're clear on that, what brings that version of you fulfillment? What makes that version of you feel filled up? And then go and do those things. It's very full on.
It is. And you know what? I think this is, again, probably why a lot of people don't do it, is because it's really, really challenging to live moment by moment. Mm-hmm. And this is like the ultimate practice. This is some Joe Dispenza shit where he talks about like literally living in the present moment and knowing that that moment doesn't actually touch the next moment. It's this right here now moment. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where conflict happens, because what I see the most is that people are like, I'm a mother right now and this is actually where I'm needed, but my brain and my body is over there in work mode and I'm thinking about getting back to that client, writing that Substack piece, recording that podcast. And so then you're in two places at one time. You're trying to be here now whilst your mind is over there, and then you're in this like discord.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we've all been there. I get into these situations all the time. Like my ultimate practice or process is always, can I be exactly where I am?
Yes.
Without like running away. Like, can I stop interrupting my mother time with Voxer messages? Can I stop interrupting my work time with that mum job that I have to do and get back to that school thing? Mm-hmm. It's like, can I actually separate and be exactly where I am? Because, and this is like the ultimate thing, is that you're not ultimately one person. No. You're not just like, I am this exact way all of the time. It's like, no, there's all of these like beautifully splintered aspects of self that come out in different scenarios and environments and situations. And it's like embracing all of that. I don't think we're very good at that collectively.
It's so Gemini of you to even just have that conversation.
It really is, isn't it?
What mask am I going to wear today? It's so great.
But which one?
We're not. Because we are bombarded with, it's so interesting. It's we're bombarded with these tick box. Even, I mean, you know me, I froth on astrology. I just referenced Gemini, but it's like, I am a Leo and so I am this way, or I am a projector and so I am this way. And it's like the one way tick box. I am this and I am this and I am this. And there's no space for nuance and flavor. And okay, but what comes online when you are met with this experience in life, or what comes online when you're in connection or relationship with this kind of person? And it's the space for all of the different flavors, and as you said, the splinters, which allow us that full spectrum of life. And that for me gives life more of just a rich, deep experience, as opposed to very one-dimensional, this is what I do every day and this is who I am, and anything outside of that doesn't feel comfortable for me. Like rigidity, that's what it is.
Well, I mean, ultimately, this is why I stepped away from human design, because I could no longer perpetuate this narrative or even be part of the narrative that says, oh, that thing explains why I am the way I am, and therefore I will not work on that thing.
Oh, yeah. It's the shadow side of
It's the shadow side of modalities. And they're not all shadow.
No.
And I think, again, we like to work in absolutes. And so I think people are like, I don't like any modalities. I'm like, you're allowed to like parts and not like parts.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm like, I love what it gave me, which is that it gave me a barometer to kind of assess my own. I don't like the word alignment because, again, that gets really misused. But like it gives me a barometer to kind of measure myself against, of like, how am I feeling? What's happening in my life? Where am I just like, splintering away from my actual true self?
Yeah, exactly.
And what I find is, it's always something. It's like MGs being like, permission to quit everything because I'm just changing my mind and that's who I am. I'm like, okay, and what does that do from a commercial viability perspective when you have an audience or a community of people who are waiting to hear from you and you've told them you're going to do something and they're heavily invested in the idea, and then you fuck off because you're an MG?
It erodes trust.
It erodes trust. And then you go, why isn't my business working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's like the actual mechanics of what goes down in life, and then there's how we validate that with a modality. And I'm like, I don't want to perpetuate that ultimately. And it's the same thing with projectors. Like, I can't work any more than that. I'm so tired. I'm like, you might have to be tired today then.
Yeah, this is what I've been sitting with. It's like, I know you saw when I got up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was like, okay, why are you doing this?
Twice in a row. And I was like, I actually need, for me, it's not a nice to have. I need to be on my own through the day. It's just when I feel my best. And so even though when I get up, I'm tired, I've realized it's okay to be tired and it's safe to be tired. And the trade-off of being tired is I get a few hours on my own. Yes. That is the trade-off that I'm willing to partake as a projector in getting up really, really early and sometimes not having my nap every day, although I do froth a nap. So it is an interesting one because I've actually been on the other end of the spectrum where with astrology and the details that I know about myself, it's so in-depth, so ingrained, and I froth it. I see everyone in my life through the lens of astrology to a fault sometimes. But I've wronged myself for years for my Leo qualities, which are, desiring starshine, desiring attention, desiring validation, recognition, and these things. And I wronged myself because a coach once told me years ago, like, you've got to stop using, oh, but I'm just a Leo, it's who I am, as a cop-out. And this was maybe 5 years ago. And I was like, yeah, noted. And so I rejected all of it rather than going, I'm going to use this as, like you said, a barometer in my life. I completely rejected all of it because I wronged myself for the truth of who I was. And it's only been the last 18 months and since becoming an astrologer where I'm like, oh, okay, these archetypes are all here to teach us about ourselves and the way we see the world. But then it's up to us to go and live and experience life and not use them as the labels of who we are. Because if I asked you the question like we did at the beginning of this conversation, who are you, Britt? And your first answer was, I'm a Gemini. I'd be like, oh, we've got a problem to do here. Yeah. It's the over-identifying with the labels, I feel.
And I think, why does that happen? Why does this over-identification thing happen? And for me, I'm like, it comes down to emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. Yeah. That's what it comes down to, which is that I remember finding human design and feeling like, oh my gosh, this explains so much about why those really sticky parts of my life aren't working. And that's because I'm actually ignoring fundamentally who I am and I'm overriding it with what I've learned is the way to success.
Yes.
And that's actually not working for me, and I'm not getting success like that. And it really helped me kind of come back the other way and explore different things, explored different ways as a projector to like be successful in business, for example, which I would say worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. In saying that, I didn't come in and go, oh my God, thank God now I don't have to work hard.
Yes.
Thank God I can just sit back and hang out and hope that life happens for me. And I think it's that piece for me. I didn't have that relationship with human design or astrology where I over-identified with it and it ran my life.
No.
I never had that experience. So then when I started teaching it and people started presenting to me in these ways where they were doing that, I was like, hold on. This is actually not serving you.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually work for you to have this relationship with human design and astrology, because you're using them to bail yourself out of situations that are hard.
Exactly. I was going to say, to deflect away from the grit and the hard work, and that doesn't fall into a compartmented, this is the way that a Gemini would deal with this situation or a projector would deal. It's just not, because there's this thread in our conversation, Britt, with there's no room for nuance. There's no room for the human. And I do wonder if part of this is a need to belong. And so we see that astrology and human design are really on an upward curve now in terms of like mass societal acceptance. It's been really interesting. There's, pop culture astrology. I'm sure there's flavors of pop culture human design. And I think, yes, a big part of it is understanding who we are and accepting self, but also feeling like we belong in some way. And if we can find other people who understand their modalities of choice, and you can converse in this language that feels a little bit unique and different, it's like, oh, I belong, I'm part of this. I think underneath it is a desire for a community.
100%. 100%. And I also think you can get into it and then you can also find community.
Yes.
They're not always exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Like, cultivate community for sure. But I think when you're cultivating it specifically through a lens of like, this is how I identify, well, you're going to have a hard time ever seeing beyond that lens.
Oh, yeah. It's so true. It's one of the reasons that I do intuitive readings. It's part of my work. I've done that for 6 or 7 years. It's part of the reason that I've never described myself as a psychic, or very, very rarely do. I will say that I offer intuitive readings, but while, yes, the definition of psychic you could place as a label of mine, I do not want to define myself or compart myself into that little label and box, because it's not just what that definition means. And I know you and I froth on word definition, but also I don't feel that it accurately represents the full spectrum of who I am. So when people have a reading from me and they're going to a psychic for a reading, they're going to have a very, very specific idea of what that's going to look like and who that person is. And I don't resonate with that. It's you come and have an experience as an intuitive reading with me is a very, very different. And this is just one example of the labels that we are wearing consciously and unconsciously that are also projections as to how people view us and see us. And why are we choosing certain ones and not others? It's really interesting.
100%. I was just like, is that my dog? No, it's your dog, isn't it?
No, it's my dog.
Yeah, it's yours. I was like, where is the dog?
Archie Rose, stop. And stop it.
We hear you, Archie.
We hear you.
I was talking to a client this morning and we were talking about this kind of human design thing. And I said, look, if I only ever listened to human design, I would never have started this podcast.
Yeah.
No one asked me to make it. I didn't have a fucking
Where was your invitation? Yep. It's fine. We've got barking dogs in the background. We've got a coughing Brit. But it's actually such a valid point, Britt. It's like, do we just wait around? And this is what you were saying. Do we just surrender and wait, sit back and go, where are my invitations at? No, we got to initiate, because 100%. That's life.
Exactly. And I was like, well, I want sponsors. What am I going to do? Just like beam messages out from my brain to the ether that I want sponsors and hope that they land in my lap? No, I'm going to make myself a media kit. I'm going to go and pitch myself to people. I'm going to get my own damn sponsors. And I'm going to be a manifester. Yeah. Because we are kind of all everything at times. Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing too. It's not that you are only one.
No.
It's that you are most dominant in one.
Yeah, and you can lean on others. It's the same with astrology. Even if you don't have a planet in Taurus, it's ruling a house in your chart, and that's got certain flavors that will breed. I think this is the thing. For you and I, we like to go to the depths of the thing and understand the mechanisms of how they work and then go, right, this is the full spectrum experience. I think especially with all of this pop culture reference points for modalities, you're getting just such a surface level that it's almost doing the modality itself a disservice.
Huge disservice.
You know, it's like you are not just your sun sign, or you are not just your big 3 planets. You are this is why I say to everyone, it's not enough to think you know who you are through the lens of astrology by the memes that you read on Instagram. Like, go and be read by someone. Same for human design, I'm assuming. It's like there are the gates and I don't know what I don't know it. So, you know, it's just
100%. There's like you could study for 15 years and still not know the full depth of how far there is to go with these things. And I think also, like, how does that play out with that part? Yes. How does that interact with that? Like, there's so much.
Yeah. And then every other person in your life in the way that they operate and work. And this is the thing. It's really, if you're finding yourself leaning on one or two of those modalities to define who you are and how you show up in the world and how you relate to other people, you're actually missing the point, because you're missing the depth. And that's the richness of a life experience. And that is where you find out about who you are, when you actually stray away from these pieces, from these threads, and experiment with life.
Yes.
I was literally about to, and I will, said like a true 3-5, but when you... The irony. Isn't it ironic?
Yes, it is. But it's true. And this is what I say to everyone. What would you find out about yourself if you let yourself experiment?
Yes.
Like, what would you learn about yourself that you're not going to go and read in a book? Like, if I have to rely on a book to tell me who I am, I've got a fucking problem.
100%.
I just find that so problematic when we are like, I am actually not willing to get to know myself through my, like, living my life.
Yeah, well, it's scary for people to sit with the truth of who they are. That's I mean, very deep of me to say, but it's scary. It's confronting, because when you're sitting with the truth of who you are, you're sitting with the whole facet of self, the flavors of yourself that for the most part, majority of us are really mean about ourselves to ourselves. So of course we're deflecting and constantly looking outside of self, because to actually sit and be with us and look inside, we're going to be confronted with some cold hard truths about how we are to ourselves, and that's not a nice place to sit. And so it's easier to deflect or be distracted, or to entertain something that is like a nice blanket term, rather than look at, you know, the deep shit that has become the truth of who we are. It's the heavy lifting.
And this is such an important thing too. You know, we are a society who loves to learn through a book, through a podcast, through whatever. We love learning there. I don't actually care how much people know.
No.
It's like, I really don't care how much people know. I care how they live it.
Yes.
It's that for me. I'm like, okay, cool. So you know lots about, you know, conflict management. But if you go and get into a conflict and you turn into an asshole, I've got questions.
You're not walking it. Yeah, 100%.
I've got some questions.
Yeah, there's nothing more... you can tell as well. I don't know if everyone can discern it, but I definitely can see when someone is sharing content on their socials because of a book they've just read, and it's like a regurgitation and they've changed a few words, or a podcast they've just listened to, and their entire content that they put out in the world is other people's opinions, other people's perspectives, other people's life experiences.
That might feel like a truth, and it might feel accurate, and it might feel like it's a representation of your own beliefs, but it's still not yours because you haven't walked it and it hasn't been born from your own lived experience.
Exactly. And it just feels stale after a while. And that's not to say you don't share a podcast that resonates. Like, it's a different thing to that, and actually having unique, authentic opinion and thought through the lens of your experience in life that you have walked. That's the difference. And it's this mimicry piece where we've still got a long way to go, and we're going to see it more, I feel, of the mirroring of people that we've either pedestaled or that we outsource our own wisdom to someone that we perceive as higher than ourselves, because they say, and we've seen it many a time where, I usually agree with everything this person says, and they've just said this thing, so now I'm going to question everything else I believe because they've said this. And this shows how wobbly we can be in what our truth is, because we are constantly relying on external sources to tell us what our truth is.
Yes. I mean, the best place to look is just look at motherhood.
Oh,
Like
Shall we?
how quickly does one abandon oneself because someone else says it needs to be a certain way, or because someone tells you that, you know, you're a bad mom if you co-sleep or don't co-sleep, breastfeed or don't breastfeed. Like it's feeding you a narrative, and we've become so distrusting of our own gut feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one person questioning us, and again, I had this conversation with a client yesterday. I'm like, if your fear of someone rejecting you is enough to make you stop, you will never begin anything.
Ever.
Like,
Ever.
if as a mother, if every single time I walked out the door, I thought to myself, I wonder if someone will question me today, and if they will, I'm not leaving, I would never go anywhere.
100%.
Someone is
100%.
always questioning you. Someone always knows more. Someone's always going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah. It's actually one of the big reasons that I chose for my first pregnancy. I've only been pregnant the one time, but for my first experience of being a pregnant woman, I chose to keep that off social media because I knew that I would be highly impressionable and take on a lot of external noise. And I knew if I shared it on social media, while well-intended, there would be people in my DMs and people commenting, telling me how to do motherhood, new motherhood, pregnancy, etc. And so I actually had to really create a firm, strong boundary around myself to protect myself from that outside influence. Now, next time around, and since becoming a mother, I can hold myself enough to go, I will be able to hold myself strongly in that. But even girlfriends of mine who have just become mothers for the first time and their babies are a few weeks old, they're how lost they look in the noise, in the unsolicited advice, and the wisdom for all of us, whether motherhood or not, this is just the example, is just come back in, go back within. How do you connect with what's true in your body? What feels true in your body? What does that look like for you? And following suit in that regard. And you truly can't step a foot wrong. But we, again, like you said, Britt, it's too simple. I'm going to do something. I'm going to read another book, or I'm going to listen to another podcast or I'm going to jump in a bloody Google forum. You know, it's just outsourcing.
No good things happen in Google forums.
I've learned that the hard way.
Well, and I mean, this is it, isn't it? There's two sides of that. Number one, you are only responsible for yourself. And so you are completely in charge of the environments that you put yourself in, the conversations that you facilitate, the conversations that you open yourself to. And so that's the only thing you control. You cannot control the people in your community. You cannot control your audience. And you can certainly educate. And this is something that I always try to do, because I'm like, I don't want to exist on social media where I feel at the whim of my community who can do whatever the fuck they want to do in my DMs. Like, it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I've had several times where I remember once I was heavily pregnant. I think I was like 34 weeks or something. I got on my socials. I start talking and someone responded being like, Britt, you seem really out of breath. Have you been checked on? I'm like, have you ever walked up 2 flights of stairs with a bloody 10-kilo bowling ball attached to the front of your body?
Oh my God.
And had that like compressing on your lung? Like, have you felt that? And I just wrote back, this is inappropriate. I don't need your commentary on my physical body. And I just think we're so scared of upsetting people. I'm like, so I'm a free-for-all?
Yeah. Yeah. So come at me. Because,
you can come at me, but I can't say respectfully, please don't tell me what to do.
I know. It's full on.
Yeah, it is.
It's a minefield out there.
It's a fucking minefield.
And I haven't actually, I haven't come to look, my community are pretty solid now.
Same.
But over the years, it's been a lot of.
You get some rogue ones in there.
Oh yeah, you get some roguies. But I think I've turned off my story replies actually. So if I don't follow you, then you can't reply to my stories. And that's been actually something really great for me, because I usually get heaps of story replies, people being like, oh my God, Hollie, you're so funny, and like, let's hang out. No, joking.
Joking, kind of.
Joking kind of, but sort of it did happen a few times. Yeah, so that's been for me, boundaries, gal. It's been a boundary that I've set where it's like I'm not available to constant communication, because also I know for my energy, my awareness, it also drains me, and I find myself bogged in my DMs, and then I'm not out living my life. So that's one thing I've put in place. But yeah, it's a really interesting one in terms of the entitlement people feel to your life when you choose to share some, not all of it. Let's be real. We definitely don't share all of our life, but it's assumed that all of it is shared. And so it's like, I'm entitled to tell you about you and to give you advice that you haven't asked for. I, for one, just don't do that to anyone, not even my friends.
I'm like, who's dropping into someone's DMs being like, hey, have you thought about X, Y, and Z? And like, you should try this and you should do. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's wild, but I think
it is wild.
It happens more often than people realize. Like when I first got back into modeling when I was 30, I got this DM from I share this story a lot because it clearly really got under my skin. But I got this DM from someone that I've never spoken to in my life, who was in my community. I'd walk past her in the street, wouldn't know who she was. And she said, hey, Hollie, I just wanted to let you know, I've got another story after this actually. Just wanted to let you know that when you mentioned that you were getting into modeling, I thought, who does she think she is? And then she just goes on this whoa, okay, how do you think I'm going to receive that? But this also happened, Britt, when I announced on social media that I became a mother and I had a baby. So I did not share my pregnancy for, the entirety. And then when my little girl arrived about a month later, I shared that I had become a mother and we had chosen to keep my pregnancy off socials. First thing that happened was I dropped 1,500 followers. I upset that many people from that experience, and I understand that for whatever reason is triggering for some, but that was a big significant drop for me. Second thing is I got at least 5 DMs from women telling me that they could no longer connect with me or follow me or engage with my content, and I'm quoting verbatim one of them, because I used to be for all women and now my content seems only to be for mothers. I was 2 weeks postpartum.
Fuck me.
These messages in the lowest point of my life. I actually have emotion behind it saying this. And I was having strangers in my DMs telling me, while I felt the lowest of lows and like I had no community around me and like I was completely forgotten, even my online community were going, see ya, and telling me that you used to be for all women and now you're just for mothers. And
the thing I really love about the unfollow button is that you don't have to announce it and you can just fucking press it.
Yeah.
Get out of here. If you don't like it, get out. You don't have to tell me. I don't actually want a discussion about it. I couldn't give a shit. And the other thing too is when you create content, the most authentic content you can create are things born from your own life.
Yeah.
And when you are sharing your own personal experience, which is that I am a mother, actually.
Yeah.
And let's get into that, because society would love it if you pretended like you weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They would love it if you ignored the fact that you were a mum, pretended you were a maiden, and continued making high quality, high yield, quantity, frequent content geared directly at the audience for them at your own expense. That's literally how the consumerist model would love you to operate. They would love you to pretend like your personal life doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the same time, holding an entitlement to it. What an absolutely fucked experience. Like, what?
I know. It baffles me. And do you know what? I did actually have some of the women that disconnected from me at the beginning, now I'm 18 months in, come back around and say, oh, I've since conceived, I've since become a mother, I've since gone on my own.
I don't care.
Journey. No, I'm like, I'm like, oh, I get it now. And it's like that is exacerbation of anyone who becomes a mother for the first time and then they look at their mum friends and they go, I am so sorry, I didn't understand. But it was that for me through my work as well, and going, well, if people don't want to hear about me and the very real shit that I'm traversing right now, when writing is my thing, it's my outlet, it's how I make sense of the world. And I feel like I have no community, and I'm trying to connect with people, but I'm watching that following drop every time I share anything on my heart. Where do I go? And that was a really big experience for me in that first year of going, it's actually not, it's not on social media, because that is as much as I will always show up in the truth of my experiences, and I'm never going to stop that. I can't not do that. I also can't rely on the community online that I've created to be that for me. I know that it just takes a click of the button and they're out, or it's a send of a DM before they're out, you know.
Just a little bit of abuse beforehand.
Yeah. Just subtle abuse though. It's very.
I only had like one person I remember reaching out to me. I would have been like a year postpartum, and she was like, "Oh, I muted you when you got pregnant because I was really sick of hearing you talk about pregnancy. And now that you're far enough past the birth, basically that I'd become interesting again." And I was like, you know what's wild is that this is actually a personal brand. Like, this is actually my personal Instagram account that you're on. It's my name, like it's me. And exactly what I share is a direct reflection of exactly what I'm living through, because I believe in authenticity, and because I believe in like really looping you in on my experience. You don't have to be interested in pregnancy to be interested in what someone's going through.
Oh.
And it's like, okay, so all of my friends who are maidens, am I all of a sudden disinterested in the fact that they're going out for dinner with a new hottie? Am I all of a sudden disinterested in the fact that, they're going out to like, I don't know, a festival or something because I'm a mother? No, those things continue to be interesting to me because I'm invested in the human being that's living them.
Oh, this is the piece.
And it's like, we've forgotten that there's a human behind experiences. Like, I'm not a fucking content machine.
No.
I'm a human.
You're Brit.
I'm Brit. I get up every morning with my children. I'm making 400 lunch boxes. I'm doing the school drop. I've got 2 to 2.5 hours of work time, and then I'm mumming for the rest of the day. Like, I'm a human being. Anything you get from me online, I think that's awesome. Literally anything. That's what I've got to give you.
It's just such an interesting one too for me, Britt, because I didn't understand until I became a mother myself how triggering motherhood is for people.
Yes.
And pregnancy, and I can understand it. I can understand that there are many, many, many people who are struggling with conception, who are struggling to become mothers, who want it beyond anything else, and the grief that must come up with that. It just would be awful and really, really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
That said, it's been a really interesting one for me to catch myself in guilt for being who I am and having my true experience as motherhood it's the biggest piece of my life right now. It's the thing I do the most. I do it more than my work. I do it more than loving on my husband. I do it more than hanging with my friends. I'm a mother before I'm anything else. So do I not share that or not speak to that because it might hurt people's feelings? And I don't think there are... I don't know that there are other life transitions that are so major that also come with so much self-imposed criticism and guilt around, oh, is it okay to actually be fully in this experience I'm having because of how it will make other people feel? An example would be, I'm going to start a business and it's really, really successful, and there are heaps of other people out there who want to start their own businesses, but for whatever reason they can't. You're not sitting there going, I better not share about it. Well, not as much as
get married.
Right?
You get married. Are you sitting there thinking, fuck, should I share the dress or should I not share the dress?
Yeah.
The dress was kind of cool, but someone might not like it. Or like, you're not sitting there criticizing or ridiculing or like hyper fixating on whether you should or should not share it. Motherhood, it's one of those things that, it's really triggering for a lot of people. No one really wants to hear about it. And then everyone is sitting there, not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person on the planet
one of you.
is looking at mothers being like, they never come to hang out anymore. I'm just going to stop inviting them. Or they're going, they haven't gotten back to my message yet. Or they're...
I miss you.
I miss you. Like
FaceTime or...
Yeah, like, can we go out for dinner? I'm like, no, it's bedtime at our house. Like, I can't do that. We should go away for a night. Can't do that. Still breastfeeding, still co-sleeping, have 2 other kids. My husband works away. Like, there's so much where you feel like you have to be everything. You have to be hyper connected, and also don't tell anyone about your problems. But then if you don't tell anyone about your problems, you're being inauthentic, and we don't ever really get to feel the real story. Why didn't anyone tell me about this in motherhood? Mate, we're all telling you.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear it.
You don't want to listen. You don't want to listen.
It's the most revered and forgotten archetype in the world.
And I'm going to say the most intense initiation a woman will ever experience, and yet also the most judgment fueled from the external that she will receive as well.
100%, because, whilst you also, you become a mother, everything about your physical anatomy changes.
Yeah.
In that every single piece of hardware in your brain shifts from a singular focus into an us community focus. So every single thing that you used to look at and think, I'm going to do this, I like this, I'm driven by this, I'm ambitious for this, none of it exists anymore.
It doesn't. You cannot think that way.
You can't think that way. Your brain does not operate that way. It starts to shift, and it goes into, what would that do to my family? How would that serve my family? What would happen to my feeding journey if I choose this? What would happen to our sleeping arrangements? If, like, all you can think is the us, the community, the family. Your brain doesn't work. It's neurological. Yes. Yeah. It's out of the book, The Postnatal Depletion Cure, I think.
Yeah.
So it's out of that book. And they literally talk in there about how every single neural pathway essentially, and this is how I've kind of like paraphrased it and clocked it in my head, is that every neural pathway disintegrates and they get reborn as this, you've got a mother brain now. And it's a very real thing that you can't think how you used to. And nothing's the same. And then everyone's going, why didn't you tell me this? And we're going, we are telling you.
Yeah, but people don't want to hear it. Or
when you're in that,
just a mass exit of speaking. So
or they're in that me phase when they're hearing it and they think, I'll do it differently. I'll be different. I won't live that. I won't experience that. And they block it out until they're living it. And then they go, fuck, they told me about that.
Yeah. That was me. Like, that was 100% me. I will be different. Trent and I both. We were like, we will be different. When we become parents, it's going to be different for us. I genuinely thought that my little girl would arrive and a few weeks later I'd have her in a rocker and I'd be back at work. And it's like, oh my gosh, the ego that had to crumble to go, life will never be the same again. And I am not saying this because I've had some people say, oh, but we don't want to scare people off. And it's like, no, I'm not doing it to scare people off. I am doing it to be truthful, that when you go through this initiation, your life will never be the same again. And this is where I get my bee in a bonnet when I see, I get really worked up.
Go on.
When I see these proclamations from women in their maidenhood who aren't even married, and not that there's anything wrong with that, PS, it's just like they are literally in their pure maidenhood, single, childless, not in a relationship at this point in their life, and they're saying, and when I am a mother, it's going to be like this, and I am going to do this, and I'm going to tend to the home like this, and casting judgment on the way that we do it when they have absolutely no leg to stand on other than just presumption, I'm thinking. Or the other thing I see is,
they're basing it off the maiden mind, right?
Yes.
They're basing it off, I have this singular view, here's how I'm going to do it because I am practical, I get shit done, I fit heaps into my life. And it's like, it's actually a really different thing.
Yeah.
It's just really different.
Or I'm an auntie, or I'm a dog mum. Trust me, I'm a dog mum too. And
same. Not the same.
Motherhood killed me.
Yeah.
Killed me that first year. So yeah, it's just what I feel, I don't know what the solution is, because I've been talking about this in my DMs to a few mothers I really admire and respect, and it's like, what is the solution? Because for the most part, majority of mothers you will speak to, if they feel safe with you, they will tell you they feel forgotten, they feel unheard, and they feel obviously also really depleted and tired. And that points to a society that has got it really wrong, because back before patriarchal times, mothers and women in general were worshipped. They were the goddess, and they were literally the heads of their communities. And somewhere along the way, and let's bring the patriarchy into it because it's seeped in internal misogyny, women and their ability to create life and birth life and then be mothers it's topsy turned, and we're right at the bottom, and we are trying to hold one another when we can't even hold ourselves. And that's where things need to shift.
Yes.
Because it's we've
and
lost
this
our
is where
power.
people say, find your village. I'm like, the village is fucked, guys. The village
There's
is all
no
tired because they're all
village.
mothers.
Yes.
They're at the bottom of their lives too. They're also exhausted. Like if I said to you, Holes, I really need you, you're going to be like, hold on, let me whip up a chicken soup. I've got all the time in the world. I'll get no one to look after my little girl, and I will make you all the things, and I'll be over and I'll listen, I'll be here and I'll hold you. No one can do that because everyone's maxed out.
Yeah.
Like when you look to the people who can actually form part of your village, most of us are cooked.
Most of us are cooked, and we're also a little bit bitter.
We're a little bit
we're a little bit resentful. Let's be real. And it's like I truly, for me at this stage in my life, is like, who can I actually truly rely on, and who gets it? Because it's really I got you. Who gets it? Because it's hard. It's hard to show up when you feel really misunderstood. And I don't think anyone's doing anything wrong in this. It's just that maybe we need different sorts of villages, like the villages of the other mothers, where we don't expect them to physically show up, but we expect to feel heard and seen and validated. And then the other villages that are made up of our maiden friends who are like, I'm going to come and I'm going to just chat with you on your mundane Wednesday mothering from home because you need company. It's the different levers we can pull, as opposed to everyone all at once doing all the things.
100%. Like, we're not going to go back in time. I don't even know if this ever actually happened, where all the women just hung out. We all just like looked after each other's children and like cooked.
I think it did.
I'm like, I don't really know the data or the statistics on that, and I must have them. So
classic Gemini.
I know. I was like, I don't know if I can like categorically say that.
What can I quote from this?
Well, okay, let's talk about this post I saw from Dr. Sophie Brock. And I shared it, you reshared it because it was really good. She spoke about the difference between childcare, like mother care, and home care.
Yes.
And that these things are different.
Yes.
Like, just because you are a mother, like, you're not mothering when you're doing the washing, let me fucking tell you.
It's not mothering.
You're not mothering when you're cooking dinner. You're not mothering when you're folding washing. You're not mothering when you're changing the sheets on all the beds. You're mothering when you're physically with your children and you're in care or play.
Yeah.
That's mothering. We have this warped idea as a society that they are the same thing. And so when we come in and I hear these narratives around like, I'm going to like fucking nail the home when I'm a mum and I'm going to do this, I'm like, firstly, you don't know what mother care is because you've never done it. And also, why is that automatically your job to do all of the home care?
Yeah.
And as a mum of 3 kids, I have a man who's out of my house from 6 until 6. I also have a job and I am our majority income earner. So knowing those things, is it then also my responsibility, because I am the birther of the humans, to do every single home job under our roof? Is that actually my job?
Yeah. Do you know why?
Where have we assumed that they're the same?
It's because you're home. That's what it is. It's because you're home. You work from home and you're caring for your kids from home. And so that equals look after the home. That's not what I'm saying is like right at all, but that's the assumption. Same goes. Tren and I, at this stage in our life, we're 50-50 in terms of income owners. I am home. I work from home and I mother from home with our little girl majority of the time. And yet when people see that he's made dinner or he's, done the laundry, oh my gosh, how amazing to have a husband that is so hands-on like that. Sorry,
who's saying that to me?
It's his house too. Like, he lives here too. It's his life too. We both
His
need
clothes.
to eat.
He needs some clean clothes.
You know what I mean? It's that weird Stepford housewife 1950s vibe that hasn't fully deconstructed yet. I think that's what it is. It's like we've come, I was going to say a long way, but we actually haven't come a long way at all. We've come a little way, but there's so much further to go, where the presumption of she is the mother and she is at home, so she also looks after the house, is completely diluted to go, no, hang on a second. Let's actually have a look at not father-mother dynamic roles or mask feminine makes me want to vomit chat. You're a team. You're a team.
You're a team.
You're a family unit. And that means that there are going to be days that I do the washing and days that Trent does the washing. That's going to be, there are days where we cook dinner separately, like whatever it is. And that doesn't come at a cost to Trent's masculinity or my femininity or my, she just can't loosen her grip.
It's just teamwork. It's just teamwork. And my question is always, what cost do you pay to nail the house stuff whilst mothering? What's the cost of that? Well, for me, the cost is when you look statistically at how much time women sit eye to eye, belly to belly with their child every day. Do you know what the actual statistic on that is?
What is that?
37 minutes. Do you know why? Because we're doing the fucking washing. We're cooking all of the things. We're folding everything. We're not actually doing a whole lot of like belly to belly mothering because we're trying to whack our kid on our hip and do everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's coming at the cost of that deep connection and those regulated nervous systems that happen when you're in play and connection.
Yeah, and presence.
And so we're going, why do I feel so dysregulated? Why do I feel so like out of my body? Why do I feel so frazzled and cooked? Well, because you're not actually mothering a lot.
We haven't been able to mother. We don't have the luxury of sitting and
You're
mothering.
trying to toggle between this role that you think you need to fulfill and the one that you actually want to fulfill. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's got a cost.
Yeah.
It's got a cost. You can't, show me one person who can write a Substack article at the same time as hanging out there washing. Show me a woman who can mother their child with presence and attention whilst also flitting in and out of the house, hanging out washing.
No, it's just
you can't
impossible.
do it. And you're so right and this is also my argument, which is that I've never seen Rory get feminine because he cooked dinner.
Never. It's more attractive.
Also, if you've ever seen Rory or spoken to Rory, you just know how humorous that statement is.
He's just not. Couldn't even.
He's just not. And I said this on my Instagram stories when I wrote it. I'm like, Rory knows when to pick up the house stuff because he is a masculine fucking champ.
Yeah.
Because he is a protector of the sacredness of motherhood.
Yes.
He can see when he's like, okay, the girls really need you. You need to be in mothering right now. I've got this. Show me something hotter than a man who preserves my right to mother.
Exactly. And your needs outside of that too. So with Trenny is like, go have a bath. I've got this. I'm gonna take care of her. And we've only got the one child, so it is a different experience. But I'm gonna take care of her. I'm going to look after her. I'm going to be, inverted commas, stay-at-home dad today because you need a bath or you need to go and have alone time. Like that, because Trent's not out there providing in that moment financially doesn't make him less than a man. It actually, in my opinion, makes him more of a man because he is showing up for me and what I need.
And also like just feeling really like at peace in his own...
Right?
I don't want to use the word masculinity, but like, just feeling really at home in his own body, in his own essence, in who he is, and being like, I don't make it mean anything about myself that I'm going to take care of you.
Yes.
Other than the fact that I'm a really good person.
Yeah. And I do know through conversations I've had with him that it is hardwired into the men in our lives that when their partners have children and become mothers, it is this internal pressure that I can't resonate with of needing to provide. But something that I keep reminding him is provision is more than financial provision. It's so much more than that. It is him go and have a bath or I've run it for
provide me space, provide my needs, provide care, provide attentiveness.
100%. I think we've really diluted the definition of what that word means and look at it through the lens of just financial provision or just going out and working working to the bone. And this is why I feel, lots of people, I read a stat this morning that in the first year of parenthood, 1 in 5 relationships break up. And it's because both of our needs are needing to be met in ways where, the societal expectation of man goes and financially provides, woman stays home with the kids and does the housework. It's not working. It is not working, and things need to shift, and I don't know how they're going to look. I say things need to shift with no
I just
solution.
had Portal by Alex on the podcast last week, and we were talking about this really common thing of like over-functioning for our significant other. And I think that that's where those relationship breakdowns happen, in that like we start over-functioning in our role and we become hyper-independent. Or they start over-functioning in their role and they become like the ultimate provider, but there's no needs being met. There's no attentiveness and care. There's no teamwork and connection. And so without that, you have the disintegration of the relationship that was once awesome. It's like we're over-functioning for each other because society's like, you need to nail the home stuff. Bake the cookies, which lol, I actually did this morning.
I love it.
Bake the cookies, look after the home, care for the children, absolutely cook yourself, and then like turn yourself on for me at the end of the day.
Oh my God.
It's that piece where we're like hyper functioning, over functioning in our relationships that they're just breaking down, you know?
And do you know what? It's just speaking this out, I'm really feeling that we're going to see a surge in it because of, interest rate rises and everything that's happening financially, particularly in big cities now, where the provider, whoever that is financially, is going to feel this pressure. And if there aren't shifts made in the dynamic of the relationship where there's some sort of commonality coming back to one another, teamwork, some sort of give and take, I feel that 1 in 5 stat is probably going to rise more. Because the other thing is something in my DMs, I was having a chat. I'm like, I wonder if part of it is more maternal leave or paid paternal leave, like where in that first year of parenting, it's more financial support from an external source. Like let's be real, that would be incredibly beneficial for fathers and mothers or partners to stay home with one another a little longer rather than having to get back into it 2 weeks postpartum and have everything break apart. Like it is a financial privilege for people to be able to manage that and not have some sort of bloody breakdown. So I do think maybe we need to lobby. there's mass government change that needs to actually happen, and I don't know that we're going to see it because, again, mothers in the family unit are forgotten.
They are, unfortunately, and it's really sad. It's really sad. Yeah, I'm just like having a little moment there. I'm like, it's just really fucking sad.
Yeah, because it's like, what are the solutions?
Yeah. And I don't know what those solutions are, but I certainly know that part of it is this education around like how to actually be in emotionally intelligent relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it for me. Yeah. I was having a conversation with Rory last night and I was like, I am so proud of how far we've come, which is that we genuinely want the best for each other. We are really willing to acknowledge when we have fucked up. We are willing to apologize. We actually don't want to fight. No. We want to be able to converse.
Yes.
We're hyper aware of how each other are feeling. We're tuning in and checking in all the time on how each other are feeling. Like I want our relationship to go all the way. Like I want our relationship to last. And so like what's required? Well, most of it, and I was speaking to Alex about this and I also spoke to Tully about this on the podcast. I'm like, it's about humility, like humbling yourself enough to not necessarily always need to be right or to feel, it's not just about feeling seen.
No.
Feeling seen is the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like what happens beyond that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time it's like humbling yourself to not only just be wrong, but also as a mother to know that you can't do everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to not try to.
Yeah.
And as a father, being willing to get your hands dirty in the home and to humble yourself in that way. And this is not, I've heard bits and pieces around like emasculating our men and all of these kinds of things. And it's just like, is that what this is? Or are we a fucking team?
This is the point. This is the point.
Yeah. I'm like,
exactly.
I didn't sign up to be like a submissive, do it all by myself and just like pretend I'm grateful vibe.
No, if there is a tension point in our relationship that wants to be looked at because I am being critical because I'm feeling underworked or I'm in my martyrdom, that's a conversation point that needs to be had around a load that needs to be shared, not I better not share this because I might be emasculating him. It's just such that conversation, which I've seen doing the rounds a little bit, is it firstly lacks nuance, and secondly actually lacks experience from the people having the conversations that aren't in long-term relationships and or parents. So it's a very easy one to fall back on. Well, if your relationship is challenging, have you looked at polarity? Maybe you're too in your mask. It's like, dude, I am a mother. I am constantly in my inverted commas mask. I am constantly doing, constantly thinking, constantly managing. It is constant. And it's not going to take a shower at the end of the day for me to drop into my fem and then open my yoni and go, here I am, take me now, to allow, Trent to feel more in his mask. It's just, we're beyond those conversations. I was having those conversations when I was a maiden. I was teaching people about this when I was a maiden. And I realize now it's inappropriate. It's because it does not look at the whole spectrum of what it takes in energy dynamics, if we want to go down that path of motherhood and parenthood. You are shifting dynamics every microsecond. It's not something that is a flick of a switch. And maybe it's just these conversations need to be had more of, so it's less of a shock to the system when we move through that initiation. Because, that, and I said it on my own potty, I apologize to any mother that I mentored or coached before I became a mother, because I had no idea what I was saying. I had no idea what I was teaching. And there's part of me that's at this stage in my life, would I even seek out, not that I am seeking a mentor at all in this moment, but I feel that I would always want to learn from someone who's a little more ahead of me in that regard. And in terms of, I want to learn from other mothers doing this work. And I wouldn't look for someone like me 3 years ago. It wasn't my place to teach mothers how to be. It never was, because I wasn't one. And so how could I communicate to them anything that was true to them when I've never walked that path before?
Yes. And, I was a personal trainer before I had babies. I'm incredibly grateful I wasn't in this work before I had kids, because number one, my pregnancy was a large surprise. So I had no preconceived ideas of who I'd be as a mum. Hadn't even bloody thought about it yet. I had my babies extremely premature because they were twins. I had a lot of complications in the pregnancy. Story for another time. But I didn't even get to a point in my pregnancy where I had thought about who I'd be as a mother. No. All I thought about was, I am pregnant. How am I going to afford this? I need to build a relationship with this man I'm having babies with. They were the things that I'd thought about. I didn't come into it with an expectation of when I'm a mom, I'm never going to X, Y. I just had never even got there. And I'm so grateful for that, because what it meant was that I met every moment. Every moment that presented, I was like, I'm learning how to do this. Yep. Now is the time. I am today years old when I learn how to do X, Y, and Z. And it's been like that my entire parenting journey. My entire parenting journey has just been me winging it.
Yeah.
But before I had kids, I was a personal trainer. And I remember working at a place and they were like, we need someone to take the mums and bubs class. And I remember looking them straight in. They asked me because I'm a woman. And I'm like, okay, I have a vagina. I don't have a baby.
No.
I don't know what it's like. I was like, I don't know what the postpartum body feels like. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I refused to take this class.
Oh, that's so good of you.
And another woman who also hadn't had kids ended up taking that class. And I remember falling pregnant not long after that, looking at the class being like, don't fucking do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that's the difference. We have these this knowledge or this awareness around what we've learned conceptually, cognitively, but how does that actually play out in life?
How does it translate? Yeah.
How does it translate? That's something you can't tell and don't know and won't know until you've walked it.
Yeah.
And
It reminds me of similarly when I used to teach my old group program in my maidenhood, and I would teach the mothers, and I was teaching them, there was a module on meditation, and I was saying to them, and I cringe at the thought of it now, but I would say to them, 20 minutes of Vedic meditation is like 4 hours of sleep. So if you can get your it's just 20 minutes, just get your 20 minutes in and then you're making up for the sleep. Do you think that I even have time for 20 minutes of uninterrupted meditation every day? No,
I don't.
I haven't in 18 months. I'm lucky if I get 10 minutes in once a week. Yet at that time in my maidenhood, because I was seeing it through the lens of I was going, it's only 20 minutes a day. You're going to get the rewards. And I remember telling myself, when I'm a mother, it's a no-brainer. It might be a no-brainer in that moment, but is it actually doable? That's
and
the
when
difference.
you think about the practical realities of what it is to actually be a stay-at-home mum, which is that you've been woken up 57 times at night, you're finally awake for the day and it's like 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. You're prying your eyelids open and you're keeping them open with toothpicks. You have a coffee or a cacao or something first thing in the morning. Your baby, like my baby now, she doesn't go to sleep until midday. I'm like, I've got 6.5 hours that I've got to fill in that I've got to do with you. If I close my eyes for 20 minutes, my house might be set on fire. Literally. I genuinely can't take my eye off you.
Even when they're asleep, because you've got to keep an eye on the monitor. So it's the only time I could meditate would be if I was sitting next to her in the bed with her as she sleeps,
And then you're opening your eye every 2 seconds,
every 2
looking
seconds.
over
You can't drop in. Yeah, exactly.
You can't drop in. And so what's like, unless you have someone who's at home, who's doing that job of watching, of keeping, and you can completely put yourself in the cone of silence. How often is that? Are you doing it frequently enough for there to be a genuine, ongoing and sustainable benefit? Probably not.
And is that the thing you're going to choose to do with that if you do have the luxury of someone watching a child while they're asleep? No, I'm doing something. I'm getting.
No, you're panicking. You're panicking for 20 minutes. You don't know what the fuck to do. And you're like,
how do I feel this? Who am I?
Like, I'm going to work. I'm going to go for a run. I'm just going to lay down. I'm just going to close my eyes. No, I'm going to read a book.
I've got to work to make the money to pay for the nanny that's come to fill that 20 minutes in. Where does it end? It doesn't. This is the thing. It's like, I'll just get a nanny in, and then okay, how are you going to pay for the nanny? With the work that you're trying to do with the nanny, they cancel each other out. There's no point. So,
well, a nanny is like 4 to 6 times more expensive than daycare. And for us, for example, we've been on wait lists for over a year. So we're paying 5 times the amount that we'd pay there with a nanny. And as soon as she's here, I'm not thinking, oh, I might, do some embodiment dancing in front of my mirror and do some self-pleasure and, a fucking mushroom. Yoni steam and do some micro. I'm thinking, get to work. Like I'm quickly, instantly arriving at my desk. I had 7 minutes to spare today. I was like, oh my God, I got 7 whole minutes before I get to get on.
What did you do?
I sat here and stared at the screen waiting for you to get here. What else?
I sat and stared.
I sat and stared, and then I re-listened to our Voxer messages and had a laugh.
We're funny. Have we shown how funny we are today? I don't think we've no,
because I feel like we got spicy.
Yeah.
We forgot to be funny.
Spicy. Yeah, we did get spicy today. This is good.
I know. Well, it's needed to happen, I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Basically what I'm saying is that mostly we were delusional before.
That's what it is, though. It is. And it's not delusional in the way of you're living on another planet. Although maybe,
maybe you are. Maybe. You're living on a maiden planet. It's a great planet. We'd love to visit sometime.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? Like when you do cross the threshold into motherhood, there's no going back to planet Maiden. Like you can't go back there, and
then you're a UFO.
So what is this?
What is this?
I can't make it out. It doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
I feel a little bit scared by it.
Everyone's taking photos. They're like, she's out in the wild. Oh,
we're not unicorns. We're UFOs.
We're UFOs.
So basically what we're saying is think carefully before you become a mother. No, that's not it. It's actually like it's everything. It's everything. It's the best threshold I've ever walked. It's the hardest, the most challenging, and the most deluded I was stepping into this. 100% could not see the truth of the matter before I walked it. And now that I'm in it, I can look back, and hindsight is a beautiful thing, and go, right, I was firstly an asshole to every mother in my life that walked before me, and I'm so sorry, and please forgive me, and I will show up for you now. And secondly, I am just excited about what's coming and the version of me that will come, because motherhood is like, you will never be you as you were again.
100%. And there's a quote by Denise Duffield Thomas, and she always says, babies bring abundance. It's like her number one thing. And I remember getting pregnant and thinking about that. And I've always thought about why. Like, why does she say that? Why is that? It's because you fundamentally change. And all of a sudden you go from being like, I this and I that, and I'm amazing, and I did these things, and I'm going to do this in your business. And it turns into, I want to take us here. Let's go here. And you become community minded. Your vision casting skills become absolutely astronomical, because every single thing you choose to do has to positively feed back into your family. You have way less time to risk things not working.
100%.
And so
100%.
you go so far into them.
Yes,
you give it so much. Like, when I do something, like, I'm like, I'm going to make a podcast. I'm not like, I'll dabble around and do a few episodes. I'm like, I'm going to do 8 2 to 3 hour episodes. I'm going to get sponsors. I'm going to get someone in to do production. And you go all the way into something.
It's so true.
Because you can't fuck around.
You've got no time to waste.
You've got no time.
Before Maidenhood, prime example is my podcast. So in Maidenhood, it was like drip feed episodes. Nothing was planned, over 3 seasons, over 3 years. Motherhood, 2 episodes a week. I record them on a Friday, and they get out. They're like literally the same as you in terms of getting podcast sponsorship. It needs to be monetized. If it can't be monetized, it has to go, because that is my work hours. Like, everything is considered and deliberate. And I love that way of living. I actually really froth through the considered and deliberate nature of things. And it's what you spoke about yesterday in your stories too, Britt, of like big change, quantum leaps, all of these things, this chat in people's lives. It's the same repetitive behaviors every day, the little things. It's showing up, it's doing the recordings. It's because as mothers, we do not have time to dilly-dally or waste. It is all or it is nothing, and there's no in between. Because then what are we doing? We're wasting our children's time.
I'm going to be spicy here. I reckon if I went to every person who wasn't living out the business that they actually wanted to be running, and they were like, it's not working, it's not succeeding, I'm not getting the results that I want, I almost reckon I could drill in and I could ask them 5 questions and I could figure out why. Number 1, I'd say, are you looking after yourself physically? Do you prioritize nutrition, supplements, and movement? That would be my first question. Number 2, do you practice new things at least 100 times before casting it aside and saying it doesn't work? I reckon by there I'd already know the answer.
Yeah, that's the answer. That's it. No, that's 98% of people.
That's 98% of people. They're not looking after themselves. And so then they're living an incoherent life because they're mentoring or they're coaching other people on how to do things they're not doing.
And guys, it's just 20 minutes of meditation a day. Continue.
Dead.
Guys, just put some protein in the slow cooker. Like.
Oh my God, that's all you need to do, guys. It's just 20 minutes. Oh my God. It's that though, right? Like, you're not looking after yourself.
Yeah.
You're not seeing things through. The next thing is that you're getting distracted off the things that you actually want to be investing in. And as soon as it gets hard, you're diversifying over to the side and you're doing something and you're going, I'm just lit up by this. That's the third thing. What are you getting lit up by that is distracting you from the actual thing that returns to you?
Yep, 100%. 100%.
It's that.
You need the foundation.
Do you know where it is? It's fucking Canva. People are in Canva.
Really?
Making pretty graphics.
I can't stand Canva.
Mate, I hate Canva. I'm like,
hate
you're in
Canva.
Canva, you're fucking around.
Do you know why? Because it's people are seeking relevance and they think, oh, if I just go viral, if I just create that one piece
They're looking
of
for
pretty
miracle
content,
moments.
if I just do that and then I get enough shares and I get enough people putting it in their stories, then that's going to be the thing that gets more eyes on me, and then my community is going to buy my shit. Doesn't work that way.
And it all comes back to the same thing. I don't care if you get 10,000 new followers tomorrow. If you don't launch and market like an absolute champ and have an idea that you've drilled down into that has actual commercial sensibility and viability, you're fucked. Those 10,000 followers mean nothing.
Do you think people are getting into running their own businesses, obviously from a place of necessity to a degree, because we all have to make money, but do you think it's also, what I'm hearing and seeing is like a large part of it is their own relevance and self-significance?
I think there's a lot of seekness.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I just smooshed two words together. Seekness.
Seekness. Can I guess what the two words were?
Yes.
Seeking relevance?
Yes.
Was it? Oh my God, we're so good.
And I was seeking relevance and significance was what I was going for.
Oh,
do you see where I went with that?
Significance. I love it. Seeking relevance and significance. This is what I'm seeing is like, why do you want the quick growth? Why do you want the quick spurt? Because if you're really needing to make money that bad, maybe business isn't for you and you need to get a cafe job. Like, this is where I become a little bit spicy and brutal. It's like, if it's purely financial, then like
then you should have no issue.
Drill into a business, it's different. It's different. But why are you in business? And if it is for that viral moment, that recognition, that validity, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's not about launching and selling programs and mastering the craft and impacting lives.
No. And what about when you've gone viral and then no one gives a shit in 24 hours? What then?
Yeah.
You need a backup plan. Yeah. Going viral is not enough.
That's not going to convert sales.
I was going to say, people liking a post, people commenting on a post, people sharing a post does absolutely nothing for your bank account.
Nothing.
And it does nothing for service. Mm-mm. Like, you're not actually serving anyone. Like, yeah, maybe someone gets that and they're like, cool, I like that post. Like, beyond that, what is there?
Then what?
Then what? And this is why I said this to you before we got on. I'm like, there's so many people that are fucking delusional about.
You did say that.
I did say that. I said those exact words. People are fucking delusional about like the actual reality of running a business, the actual reality of achieving a goal, which is that if you are not willing to do incremental background shit that no one sees you doing, and if you're not willing to do it hundreds of times again and again and again and again and again without one person patting you on the back, giving you a round of applause or liking it on social media, you are not cut out for business. It's that simple.
It's that simple. I got a few DMs the other week when I had a section of my book published over on Mamma Mia. And it was on the homepage. Yes. And I had a few DMs. Hollie, how did you do that? How can you? I would love to be on Mamma Mia. How did you do that? And it's like, guys, there's a quote.
I wrote a fucking book.
Firstly, no, but like, fuck me. It's Samantha Wills said this quote years ago. It's the average overnight success takes at least 7 years. I've been in the game of this business, sharing content, talking on Instagram, sharing my stories for 7.5 years. Like, it's not just been Hollie all of a sudden is on Mamma Mia overnight. It's not that at all. It's like I was working in a jewelry shop. I was doing promotional modeling work. I was coaching my friends for cash jobs on their beds, and I was writing freelance articles because, remember, also I'm a writer, so it's easy for me to get coverage on a platform because I'm an actual writer. And I was writing content for articles and publications that I was then pitching to behind the counter of the jewelry shop I was working in. It hasn't been this thing where all of a sudden I'm just being seen. It's like this has taken so much grit, determination, perseverance, many a time where I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to keep going anyway. Thousands of people in my community falling away. And so, I'm no longer in that amount of people following me. I'm in this amount. Like, so many ego deaths and transmutations. And I just don't know that. Like, I'm not a business coach. I'm not going to be sharing how I run my business It's not the work I'm here to do. But because people don't see it, I think they just assume, like, I know you've had this said to you too, Britt. It's like, oh, you click your fingers and things sell out. I want to be like that. It's like, well, get to work. And
get to work
and work for
when you've run
years
60 when you've run 60 programs or courses in 4 years, then let's chat about why that's not working.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, this is the next question I'd ask to figure out if people were cut out for business. I'd say what's in your bio? Show me how you are that.
Oh.
So when you say I'm a writer, it's actually easier for me to get coverage because I'm an actual writer. What you mean by that is that you write all the time.
Yeah, every day.
Like you practice, you write, you publish, you let people read it. You've written a book. You actually write things. So ticks for holes.
Thank you.
Actually, literally ticks for holes. And this is what I mean. So many people are like mentor to women, like writer, and I'm like, where do you write?
Yeah.
Who do you mentor?
Yeah.
What on? What about? Show me some results. How did you take them from A to B, B to C, C to D?
Yeah.
Show me, tell me, show me how you be that.
Yeah.
This is another one of those things that I get I'm like, I don't give a fuck about your bio. I care if you are being your bio.
Yeah.
Show me how you are that. That's how, like, it's just a social media bio. Yes, it is. And it's fickle and you can change it. And it really doesn't matter that much. But what it does matter for is that if I land there and I think, wow, that is so cool. This is another writer, another mentor, like someone who I'm really interested in. Like I really want to go into that. And then I see that they're not living that, or they're not being that, or I see a dissonance between those two things. I am an instant unfollow. Yep. And that's
You're
just
not
how it
buying
is.
from that person because it erodes trust, and people
100%.
People purchase when they trust. I mean, everyone think about when you're investing in a business, a brand, a person, a mentor, whatever it is. It's because to a degree you trust them. My background's in strategic marketing. You need at least, that's truth. That's not just me throwing that in, but that's truth. That was my corporate job before I fell into this line of work. You need at least 7 brand touch points that fuel trust before you're buying from someone. At least
100%.
7.
And you know
one
what,
of those
guys?
trust points is your bio.
It's your bio.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've been in business for 16 years and I've never been featured in Mamma Mia. And you know what? I'm all right.
Right. And that's the other piece, though. It is, isn't it, Britt? It's why. Why? Is it the prestige? Is it the recognition? Is it all eyes on you? Like, what?
No, it's because people think it's going to get them something that they can't get on their own.
Guess what, guys?
Because there's no responsibility.
I reckon I got 5 follows from that article. I reckon that's what happened.
Yep.
Did I get any readings booked in? Nope. Right? It's the reality of it. It's just... We've really got to get honest with ourselves of what is it that you're seeking from that moment of recognition or prestige.
Yeah.
And
the viral miracle moments.
Right. For me, it's like, I want my book to sell 100% because that's residual income. So that will have converted for me. But if you haven't written a book, why are you wanting an article on Mamma Mia? Like, tell me why.
You know why I want it?
Tell me.
Well, I don't. But
Tell me why.
Okay. So why I would want it, which I'm neither here nor there. I think it's incredibly cool that you got it.
Thanks.
And why? What would I do with it if I got it? Great. I would actually want it to convert to follows, which it didn't. Why would I want it to convert to follows? Because I back myself 10 out of 10 times on the marketing front.
Yes.
I back myself with conversion. And I back myself to follow through on my ideas. Mm-hmm. And so I know that if I had an influx, I would create something. Because I'd be like, I'm going to capitalize on the fact that there's new people here and I'm going to market the shit out of it. And I'm going to sell my little heart out and I'm going to bring people in. And then I'm going to have converted people who are now fans of my work.
There we go.
That's what I do.
That's the strategic mindset, right? The other thing I will say to that specific example is my client, one of my beautiful, dearest clients who's worked with me for 5 to 6 years now, is the managing editor of Mamma Mia. It wasn't just that Mamma Mia found my work one day and went, we want to work with Hollie. It's that my beautiful, trusted, dear client who is the managing editor went, I'm going to pimp your work for you. So there's also that luck and that chance and me developing good relationships with people in my life. And that's the piece.
That's the piece.
So I want to pass the mic.
I was like, that's it. Like that was.
I was like, okay. Like, you don't know where these opportunities are going to land from. Do good work. That's it.
Do good work.
do good work. You don't know what's going to come through. You
Yes.
don't know where it's going to land, but just show up and do good shit. Right?
Do good shit, and then also get really good at telling the world about that good shit.
Yeah.
Like, not just you sitting there being like, I'm really amazing at what I do. No, like tell them about the specific thing that you're selling. Yeah. That's the piece that's missing. Because here's what most people think launching is or selling is. They think it's the Canva graphic that they just fucked around for 3 hours making and sharing that on their social media. It's not. No, that's not marketing. That's sharing an image.
Yeah. That's literally you could actually do without all of that Canva shit, to be honest.
Yes. Well, I mean, for the first year and a half of my business, I sold everything without Canva graphics.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I can't believe people are wasting their time in Canva. I literally cannot. But do you know what else, Britt? It's this thing around me and my best girlfriend, Leah. We coined the term Instiety. It's anxiety, but for Insta. And she gets solid Instiety. She's an incredible interior designer, and they were just featured in House and Garden Mag. And the Instiety that came up for her sharing that, even though she knew it was an incredible feature and also it's marketing that needs to be shared, she was paralyzed by fear. And it's our culture, especially in this country, when it comes to tall poppy and don't shine too brightly, don't be seen too much. And we spoke it out last week when she shared, and she's like, I was just sitting there thinking, people are going to think I'm bragging. And I went, yeah, brag, because this is a really amazing thing that you've done with your work. She's a mum, runs a business, like, brag. You have bragging rights. If people have issues with that, that's their shit. It's such a like easy thing to say, isn't it? Like, you know, if you're triggering people, it's their stuff. It's not necessarily that thread, but it's...
Okay, but this comes back to the hard work piece of the hard work isn't just about taking the action. The hard work is about processing, managing, and navigating the emotions that come up alongside those actions.
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, so we're fearful of tall poppy syndrome because people truly do... Some people have an actual issue with other people having success. They genuinely do. They have a big problem with it. Yeah. And usually it's because it shines a light on the fact that they're not experiencing the success that they want. And so then they love to hate the person who's having what they want to have, right? It's very, very simple. We can understand that. And also it doesn't mean that you're not scared to put your head on the chopping block
every time
to be like, you know, I'm really proud of this achievement and I'm really excited to share this with you and to have someone write back and be like, did you really need to share that? Feels a bit like a brag. Yeah. Like, do we really need to put ourselves through that? Well, actually, yes, because doing those things, putting yourself through those things are the things that help you build tolerance for discomfort. And over time, that discomfort is like, oh yeah, there's another one of those people that sends those ridiculously rude DMs, block.
Water off a duck's back. Yeah. I received you know when you do the Q&A boxes in your stories, I did one recently.
Yes.
And one of the questions that came through, oh yeah, you had some whack shit. You did the anonymous one.
I did anonymous.
That's your fault. Never do anonymous.
Do you know what? I'm really naive and I really, really didn't think people would be weird.
I loved your innocence. And then when you were sending me some of the questions, I'm like, this is what you get for doing this.
Yeah, I didn't think about it.
I'm
a naive person. It's
in the past, not even on Instagram. But anyway, I received a DM that was, have you ever faced a block in business?
You're like,
how
never.
Did you overcome it? And I'm like, that's literally business for me. Like,
that's all I've done.
All I've done is just face a block and face a block and face another block, and here's another one. It's like that and I love that you said this in your stories yesterday, Britt. It's like, that's the work. It's not just sitting down and learning to be a better writer. It's, okay, now I need to share my words.
That's not hard.
That's not hard. That's a skill that you can master.
That's skill. Skill mastery is a piece of piss.
You just practice. Whereas
you YouTube and practice.
When it comes to the heavy lifting, it's like you've got to face off with your shit and claim that you don't want to walk that way anymore. And then once you've done the claiming, you actually have to walk differently. And that means that there are going to be people in your life that don't want to be in your life anymore. That means there are going to be very challenging conversations you're going to have with people that, you know, no longer serve in whatever way. Yeah. That means that you're going to need to move your body in a different way that feels uncomfortable. Start eating meat again after 17 years. That's personal experience. Like, whatever it is, it's heavy lifting stuff. And this all feeds into, it feels like it's we need to see the broader context of life. And this is what you're all about, Britt, to then hone in on business, because how you are in life then filters into business.
100%.
So the heavy lifting is constant.
Well, I've never seen someone who's absolutely amazing at business who's not living a great life.
Yeah.
Like, and vice versa.
It's true. It's so true. That's actually a really good observation. Well done.
I mean, it's so true. And you know what? I don't want to work with people who are awesome in business who aren't living a life that I aspire to.
Yeah.
It's so that simple for me. I'm like, if you don't have a magnificent relationship, or, you know, you're living a life of your dreams, like, you know, you're wanderlusty and you're traveling and you're doing cool shit and you're really fucking happy, why would I want to work with you?
No, it's so true. It's so true. I think that's where it comes into, why do we pedestal the people that we pedestal? What do they represent? And can we get clearer on taking people down off of those things? Because I don't think people look at it through that lens a lot of the time of, do they live a good life that I aspire to live, and that be the reason? It's more, how many followers do they have? How much money have they said that they've made? Or, you know, what are they wearing? Like, it's very, very, it can be quite surface. And
super surface.
Rather than, are they just living a really solid life that I can see I desire for myself? And also the other thing is, how do I feel when I'm in their energy? Do I feel good and excited and inspired and challenged? Absolutely. But if I feel that I'm less than, there are some questions to be done there, and that's on me. It's not actually on the other person. It's on me and where I'm pedestaling. Yeah.
Have you watched the Ed Sheeran documentary yet?
No, but I love him.
I love him
on
too.
Disney, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Okay. I mean, he's our song. Like, his song is like the song that I had like put on the beautiful record for, like he's amazing. We've always really loved him. And I thought, I'll watch. It's really great. And the one thing that I couldn't get over is just like how grounded and normal and down to earth he is, how beautiful his relationship is with Cherry, his wife. And then the main thing was, you know, he was really hit with grief when his bestie passed away. And I was like, he's grieving. Like, I would grieve, like you would grieve, like everyone would grieve. Like, there is no space for a pedestal anywhere. I can adore his music. I can, you know, I think the Gemini part of me was like, I am obsessed with your brain. Yeah. I am obsessed with the way that you operate.
Yeah. That's maybe Taylor Swift.
Yes. Yes. I did watch her thing, though. And it's like, I really appreciate these qualities in you. And ultimately, grief will still make you grieve. And love will still make you love. And pain will still make you hurt. You're a really normal human. You are the same as me. We just happen to live really different lives. And I think that's like ultimately what I've taken away from the pedestal thing. Yeah. Is that if there's a pedestal, it's either your problem in that you've made it mean something that it doesn't mean. Like, you've created this idea that they are superhuman and that they don't bleed the same way that you do. Yeah. Or the person that you've pedestaled has created a dynamic like that.
Where they are the savior.
And you are the problem. Yes. And you are looking to them to be fixed, and that dynamic is being perpetuated by one or both of you.
100%. And then it becomes codependency.
And either way, it's your responsibility to exit stage left.
100%.
Like 100% of the time, it's your responsibility to get out.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. We're going to see more of this come, I don't want to say unstuck, but more illuminated when, I will talk astro for a second.
Go on, hit me.
When the nodes shift into Aries North Node and Libra South Node, because the South Node in Libra, and this is collective nodal energy that we're going to experience, like in community and in like large scale, and part of the South Node in Libra is codependency, which can come from pedestaling. So it's one of the pieces that I'm anticipating is we're going to see the reality of people for who they are and the truth of people for who they are, and not the rose-colored glasses or pedestal-y versions of people. And I think we've already seen it to a degree, but it's time to start to pull people down off of the stages, the metaphoric stages boxes we've put them in terms of being above ourselves, and realize that we're all figuring life out, and that we can work alongside one another and walk alongside one another and learn from one another. But in terms of like that superiority complex, that guru complex, the you are mightier than me complex, the God complex, like, fuck me, it's just, there's just no room for it.
There's no room for it. But you know what? It happens so much, and you can always clock it. And actually, I'd love everyone to just start clocking this. Like when you're going through socials and you notice the way that people speak.
Yes.
They speak at you.
Yes.
You're instantly in a pedestal sitch where they want to be pedestaled. And I see this a lot. Like, you can do this and you do that, and they're speaking at you. They want to create this dynamic. I'm doing this thing with my hands that people who are listening will not see. They're doing this thing where they're like separating the guru from the students because they're schooling you. They're not sharing information with you.
No, exactly.
And it's a really different quality. It's a really different dynamic, and you can feel it when you're really discerning and aware and like observant of it. I think you can really feel it. And I think most people get on there and there's no like containment of their own energy. There's no like, I'm coming on and I'm discerning and I'm completely in control. I'm at the whim of whatever happens on here.
It's enmeshment.
It's enmeshment.
And it is very much in this age of technology that is just going to become louder and less easy to kind of disconnect from. Where we like discernment is our best friend in terms of the portals that we allow ourselves to get hooked into through our phones. And Jules Ferrari, Froth,
we love you, Jules.
We love you so much.
We just love her.
She speaks about this often, whereas like you cannot be in your own energy, in your own truth when you are connected to your phone all the time, and you are connected into other people's truths and hooked into their noisiness and their experiences of life all the time. And this is a time for us to get really discerning in, firstly, who we allow, whose energy we allow into our space, and how much time we spend in that space, and also where you choose to disconnect because there's an imbalance here in the way that I'm engaging with their content or showing up in the dynamic with them, and I choose to remove myself from that because that's actually not true to me.
I love that. Something I try to do when I get on socials is like when I'm reading, I'm just thinking, I'm just going to look at this with the discerning eye. Like if I was mentoring this person, or if I was in a relationship with this person where we were like communicating back and forth in real time, what would I respond? And I like playing that game because I'll be reading something and I'll be like, oh, I'm really interested in that. Why do you say that? Why is it that you think that?
Yes.
And what I find myself doing is discerning the bits that feel really accurate where I'm learning something. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a different perspective. I hadn't thought about that. That's really cool. Then the next bit where I'm like, okay, same person, same piece of content, completely different feeling in the next paragraph. Like I don't agree with that as much. That doesn't feel accurate to me. That feels a bit of like a really personal approach.
Yes, experience. Yes.
And then I'll go into the next bit and I'm like, fucking amazing punchline. Love that. Ultimately agree. I probably wouldn't have said it like that if it was me.
Yes.
And then I move.
Yes.
And it's so great to be like, okay, just because Hollie's the one that says it, does it mean that I have to categorically agree with every single thing in here? Exactly. Just because, my friend Rach or like my friend whoever has said something really cool, does it mean I have to agree with every single thing? Or because of my feelings towards someone, does it send my discernment offline?
Yeah, this is it.
It's that piece for me. I'm like, okay. There are people with really dominant energy on socials, super dominant. And I find myself being like a little bit terrified of people with super dominant energy online.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I'm being told what to do.
Yeah. It's jarring.
It's really jarring.
I know what's best for you. Like speaking in that way.
Yeah.
You will, or the patronizing, you just don't get it. You just won't know until you know. And I know now. So you'll know maybe. It's like.
Yeah. Like listen to me because I hold the codes, the secret codes.
Oh, it kills me. It kills me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really nice because you're not publicly putting your opinion out there. You're having a moment to yourself to continue like holding your discernment in really important situations where regardless of who is speaking, You have the ability to like critically think, critically assess what you're seeing and deciding if that is or is not for you.
Yeah. And
Taking
you
some
don't like the person.
No.
It's just you don't agree with the statement.
And you know what? I'd never, ever say anything.
No.
Because it's not, like, it's not a debate. I'm not having a debate. I'm trying to keep my discernment online. It's actually like a really personal thing that I do for myself, because I think one of the things that makes me better at my craft is that I can discern.
Yes. 100%.
It's the thing.
Because you're not comparing then.
No, I'm not comparing. I'm also not deciding who someone is to me and then seeing them like that every minute of every day. Yeah. I'm taking, it's like moment by moment, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and then mentoring or coaching or discerning or being with the thing that's right in front of my eyeballs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
the other thing is like, for me, it's discernment in the content I curate in my feed. So I'm following a lot of like homesteading content and fresh flower garden. Truly, I don't know that I follow any psychics or mediums or intuitives. I follow maybe a handful of astrologers because I like their insights and it helps me kind of gauge my practice. And the only coaches and mentors I follow or connect with are my friends. It's not people that I'm wanting to learn from outside of that. So I think even feed curation is an important one of like,
100%.
Are you just being bogged down by and oh gosh, I got to say this. When I'm on someone's page and I see they're following thousands of accounts, it makes me freaking jarred. Like my system.
How many people do you? How many?
300 and something. Check. You can check.
Yeah, I'm checking.
Yeah, 300 and something. But like, it's in the thousands. That is a lot of noise. That is a lot of. Yeah, that's a lot of energy outside of self. And I
follow 97.
That's amazing. Like at the end of every fortnight, I'll go through and I do a little bit of cull because, you know, I enter those competitions where they're like, follow my brand. And if I don't win it, I'm not following you again.
Yeah. I'm in it to win. Yes.
No, but in more seriousness, it's like getting really crystal clear on your own content curation, what your eyeballs are landing on every day and how that is impacting your life off the screen as well. Because I guarantee majority of people are following other people in the industry, comparing, pedestaling, and it's like, do we even really need to be doing that? Not really. No. If you're not
I don't remember the last time I looked at something that someone in my industry was doing and thought, wow, that makes me less than, or like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Like, I don't follow it.
Exactly. But I think most people do, Britt. And this is what lends itself to the paralysis in actually taking action because people are so paralyzed by comparison. Or the other piece I see is, oh, everyone's already doing this. Who am I? Like the imposter syndrome of my voice is going to be added to the noise. I'm like, what noise? What noise?
I have a problem.
Tell me, please.
I have a problem. No, I have a problem with imposter syndrome. I have a problem with like comparisonitis.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't feel them. I just don't feel them. It's not something I've ever struggled with, not because I think I'm amazing, but because I literally just don't have that neural pathway in my brain where that's how I think.
That for you. I love that for
you. I love that for me too. I don't know how that happened, but I literally just don't feel it. I'm not like, oh my God, who am I to start a podcast? I just think, well, fuck, people don't have to listen.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm like, whatever.
But we make it mean more than that. We make it mean more. It's like, if I only get 5 listens, then I'm a failure. As opposed to...
Okay, I'm also like, I won't get 5 listens because it's going to be awesome.
You'll at least get 8 because I have 8 guests.
Exactly. There's 8 guests. I'll listen 8 times. No. Okay, my brain doesn't function that way. But also, I have my own shit. Like, I have other shit that I deal with that isn't those things.
Yes.
And my whole thing is it ever going anywhere? Like, you know, it's like, and again, this comes back to the hard work piece. It's moving with those things.
Yes. Exactly.
You're going to sit there thinking, who am I to launch that? Who am I to do that? What if this happens? What if it doesn't work? What if I get rejected? And you're going to think that for the rest of time.
100%. It's not going anywhere.
So like, why are we hyper fixated? People are like, you know, I'm a highly sensitive person. I constantly have imposter syndrome. I constantly have, what was that?
I call the highly sensitive person thing out in like.
Do you?
I do.
Where is that in the book?
It's when I talk about the difference between being an empath or holding empathy. And when people say that I'm an empath or I'm an HSP, highly sensitive person, what you're actually doing is copping out people-pleasing behavior. It's
Oh,
like,
that's good.
yeah,
Because
it's
I'm actually
exactly
leaning
it.
on your book right now.
Are
With
you?
I am. So I was like, I'd open it, but I can't because my
Yeah.
podcast microphone's on it.
You can be an empath, but that's no excuse not to be a people pleaser or not to move. Like, that's,
I mean,
sorry.
empathy is a normal human behavior that
It's
shows
nice.
people's emotional intelligence.
It means
I
you're
think
not a narcissist. We like that.
we like empathy.
Yeah.
And there's empathy, and then there's, I mean, like, and I'm thinking about empathy towards someone else. Like, I can feel empathy. I don't feel like I have to fix it for you.
No.
And there's a difference.
This is it.
I can feel like, I can feel,
Oh my God, Trent's work phone. Give me a sec.
it's so fine.
No. That is like, that is just wild, guys.
Oh my gosh, that's so fine. We love a little bit of normal life thrown in there.
Yeah, he's got a job coming through, guys. Ooh.
Amazing! Yay, Trenny! I can feel empathy, but it doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do about it? I'm like, I feel for you because I'm imagining myself in your shoes.
Yes.
And I can feel how much that's rippling in your life, and I can see the ways that that's playing out.
Yes.
And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a real difference between like, I'm just going to like lay it on thick to make you feel like I care versus actually genuinely wanting to work on this with you.
Holding the space
to help
for
you move out of this.
Exactly.
But ultimately what I was going to say is that all of these things that we feel that come up when we're doing hard things, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's that we're an HSP and we're feeling it all, whether it's like comparison items. Oh
I
my
love
God.
that. It sounds like a disease. It's like tinnitus.
Yeah, like that, but with comparison.
In your ear constantly.
Comparisonitis. This is one of those like pitfalls of being a Gemini, is that you're thinking of two words at the same time and you're like getting ahead of yourself. Like fear of failure, fear of judgment. I have fear of judgment.
Is that what that is for you?
I think people are going to judge me all the time and like misperceive me.
Right.
Because I know I'm spicy and I mean, sometimes, like I'm not always.
You know what? You're not even that.
I'm not even that spicy. Do you know why? Because I'm diplomatic. Because I fucking think about it, and because I say things, and because I fucking care how I deliver things.
Yeah.
You know, and I also would never shy away from saying hard things. No. I would say hard things, and I would say them with intention and deliberateness and precision. Because Gemini life, it's just who I am as a person. And I get really worried that people are going to misperceive me because they've either made a snap judgment, like they've read a line, but they haven't read like the rest of it. They haven't understood the context. They've misperceived. Like, so it's that for me. And so when I'm holding that, knowing that like I have this fear of judgment every time I do things, I'm really hoping that people don't misperceive me, but it is very likely that they will at one point or another.
Absolutely.
I can either over-explain myself for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Or I can deal with the ramifications of being misunderstood. And I can develop a skill set for navigating that misperception.
Therein lies the hard work.
That is the hard work. It's it's not sharing the thing that I want to share. That's a piece of his.
Yeah.
It's navigating the emotion that comes up with it. And it's the same with imposter syndrome. Like people go, I've just got imposter syndrome. How are we going to work through this? I'm like, well, I'll wait till it actually happens and then we'll talk about it. Because
when it's there.
When it's there, because fearing imposter syndrome is not the same as actually having
in it.
Like doing the thing and wigging out because you're going through imposter syndrome. You're like, holy fuck, no one's buying, what's happening? Blah, 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 and you're wigging out.
Exactly.
Let's mentor them.
It's not a reason to not do the thing because you're preempting or expecting that could happen. Yeah. It's just 100%. I think I'm a little bit the same as you and a little bit different in that I feel I don't feel comparison. Actually, I'm the same as you in
Yeah,
that
I don't
regard.
feel that.
I don't get that. I can understand it for other people, but I draw inspiration from people, and I don't feel jealous of other
Well, you know,
people.
like if you do something, we're not the same person, right? We're not the
No.
same. We
Yeah.
do really different things.
Yeah.
We have really different ways of expressing ourselves in the world. I see you
Yeah.
do things. I'm like, that's really fucking cool. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm nothing because I didn't make it.
Right? Yeah, I'm the
It's
same.
weird.
It is a weird thing, but I do think it is a common thing. So I'm not saying that you're a weirdo if you feel this. I'm just saying I can't relate to that because I don't have that experience.
Although you probably are a weirdo because I'm a weirdo, Holes is a weirdo. We're all weird.
Two weirdos. We're all just a little bit weird.
And if you've made it this far,
weirdos. Yeah, well done. But with the imposter syndrome piece, I feel it. Say particularly with modeling has brought a lot of imposter syndrome up for me.
That would bring it up.
It's not reason for me to not do it because my desire to do the thing is greater than my desire, is greater than this feeling of imposter syndrome, the discomfort. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, if imposter syndrome is your reason to not do the thing, then your desire isn't strong enough. And maybe
I was going to say, but even if the imposter syndrome is, let's say it's like on par.
Yeah.
Like you really want the thing, but the imposter syndrome is just so strong.
Yeah.
I'd be like, challenge accepted.
100%. Do the thing and then see. You're not going to die, probably.
Probably. Highly likely that you won't die.
He's hoping that you won't. Yeah. It's the truth. It's like, what are you making it mean? And again, are you overly identifying with being in imposter syndrome? Is that your excuse? Like, where are you using these? Like,
it's the new human design.
I was going to say, where are you using this as the cop-out? Imposter syndrome, comparison, where are you using those as the cop-out? As a label that you wear as opposed to something that you meet and then face off with.
Yes. Okay, well, we've solved all the world's problems.
I mean, we always do. It's been great. I love
who we are.
Problems with you. It's the best ever. Oh, how fun. Thanks for having me. Do you want to ask me anything else?
I don't know. I was just looking at looking at my notes.
Like, what else do you want to just drop in before we smoke them out?
No, I actually think we kind of nailed everything.
Oh, we nailed it. Yeah. Of course we did.
We didn't even think about it. No, it did because I actually checked.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I checked before to see if it was working, and it's on. It's happening.
She's on. It happened. We just spoke for 1 hour, 54 minutes and 34 seconds and counting.
I know. I'm really proud of us. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, thanks for having me, gal.
And if nothing else, had a bloody great time.
Yeah, always. Gemini season, no less.
I know.
Not look at everything through the astrology, and then she.
But then also, well, it's just who you are. It's just who you are, Holes.
I'm just a mere astrologer, guys.
I'm really hoping that I can get the first season out in Gemini season. That's my ultimate goal, and I feel like I'm going to have like a 1-day buffer with the last recorded episode.
Oh, and have every single one out in the season. Oh, gal, you got to get to work. Am I the last interview?
No, I've got 2 more.
Okay.
And then I've got the panel.
I'm so excited about the panel. Me, you, and I won't reveal the guests, but I'm excited.
Yes, I'm going to stop recording so that I can tell you.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.